155-pound weight class is one of my favorite divisions to watch and is incredibly deep. I think it's not an exaggeration that we could see each of these 5 fighters in the top 15 in the rankings within the next 2 years. Here are my top 5 unranked UFC fighters in the lightweight division. Number 5, Beast Boy Mike Davis. And I wouldn't have put Mike Davis this high at number 5, but he just had a really bad injury and suffered a bicep tear and had to get surgery. He was set to fight Drew Dober, and I was very excited for that matchup because it would have been a great showcase for Mike Davis to show off his power in his hands and the amazing striking skills that he has. Not only is he a good Muay Thai guy, but he's also 3-0 as a pro boxer. He has the boxing fundamentals, and you can see it very clearly with his defensive movement and sharp combinations that he throws. As a boxer, he originally trained at Cus D'Amato's gym, which is royalty in the boxing world. You know, it's where Mike Tyson trained for a long time. But long story short, the dude has hands. He's got a pro MMA record of 11-2, and his only 2 losses were to Sadiq Yousuf on the Contender Series and to Gilbert Burns in 2019. So both big names who are nothing to laugh at, and especially that early on in his career. This was about 5 years ago when he had those losses. He's 4-1 in the UFC, and that loss was to Burns. He has a 50% finish rate, 1 sub, 1 KO. He is 32 years old, so he has to win now. But I really hope Mike Davis can recover from that bicep tear and get healthy for his next fight, because I know he has the skill and athleticism to make it into the top 15 in the rankings. So everybody go give Beast Boy some love so that he can return healthy from that injury. Number 4, El FENOMENO Joel Alvarez. Joel Alvarez is a fighter out of Spain who is absolutely huge for this weight class. He's 6'3" and has a 77-inch reach. He's kind of built like Jalen Turner. He's 20-3 as a pro and 7-2 in the UFC, but his only losses came to Damir Ismagulov, absolute stud, and Arman Tsarukyan, you know, a title contender at this point. So it's not like he's getting beat by people who aren't amazing. He has good stand-up and uses his range well. He's a huge submission threat. He's got 17 of his pro wins coming by submission finish. I think the future is bright for Alvarez, who is 31. So again, he doesn't have much time left in his prime, but he does have a big fight coming up with Elves Brener. I think he matches up well against some of the guys, you know, that are 10 to 15 in the rankings. And I wouldn't be surprised if he can move into the top 15 if he can string together a few more wins. Number 3, Elves Brener. Elves Brener, man, this guy has had a tough road in the UFC so far with matchups with Guram Kutateladze, who I made a video on a while back. Check that out after this video. And Guram is an honorable mention for this list. But he also had a very tough matchup against Orolbai. And he also is set to fight Joel Alvarez, who we already talked about on this list. So from the jump, Brenner is getting put into the Shark Tank with some of the toughest guys outside of the top 15. He's only 26 and he has a ton of time to improve his game, but already he showed a lot of the qualities that I would want to see and want to expect from an elite fighter. The comeback win against Guram was insane, and he came back from an absolute pummeling to shut Guram's lights out with a throat punch, man, and you don't see that every day. He fights at a team shootbox where we know Olives and a host of other great fighters and legends have trained out of. So he's getting amazing looks in practice and has, you know, the guidance of a former champion to help him improve. Brenner's a gritty guy who isn't going to give up on himself and will take one to give one. He's a little wild, but that combination of grit and willingness to trade makes him a dangerous opponent, and he has the power to one-shot KO. Whoever wins the next fight between Brenner and Alvarez could potentially be in line for a top 15 ranked matchup, so pay close attention to how that one plays out. At number 2, one shot, Mauricio Ruffy. He only has 2 fights in the UFC, including his win on the Contender Series, but from what I saw against Danny Malarkey in his last win, this dude is electric. To have the confidence to go out there and do a flying scissor sweep in the UFC is nuts. I don't think I've ever seen someone do that before, and he even landed it. He showed accuracy, good footwork, power, and the willingness to experiment and fight free, which tells me he's really confident in there. I saw a comment online where someone called him Brazilian Conor, which I think is a great comp. He has the look, he kind of has that flowy striking style of early Conor McGregor. 100% of his pro wins are TKO or KOs, so this guy has the killer gene and he comes to finish. He's big for the weight class at around 6 feet tall, but I think he's bigger than that. Malarkey is listed at 6 foot, and in that fight, Ruffy looked taller than him to me, but you know, maybe it was just a fight stance. He also trains with the Fighting Nerds, who have a couple of guys who are absolutely surging right now, and they're definitely doing something right. He's only 28, so I'm confident that he should continue to improve over the next few years. And at number 1, we have Myktybek Orolbai. Orolbai is an absolute stud. In his debut fight in the UFC, he came in on short notice and fought in a weight class 15 pounds heavier than his normal at 170, and he finished Uros Medic, who is a legit guy. 11 of his 13 fights are finishes, and he's a very balanced finisher with 6 TKOs and 5 subs. What stood out the most to me in his fight with both Brenner and Medic was his pressure grappling. He's good on the feet, but he seemed very strong and has great control both in his cage wrestling and when he has his opponents on the ground. In his fight with Brenner, who, I mean, we've mentioned like 6 times in this video, he was very dominant for the first 2 rounds, and he did seem to slow a little bit in the third. But at only 26 years old and somehow looking 45, he already has a ridiculous base to improve on, and he's training with Team Alpha Male, who has a track record of producing and training great fighters. I think already at only 26 years old, Orolbai would be my pick to win against multiple people within 10 to 15 in the rankings. With so much time to continue to improve, I think it's inevitable that Orolbai gets into the rankings and may even have a shot to do something special in the 155 division. Also, I had a friend who visited Kyrgyzstan and bought me an authentic hat that's very similar to the one Myktybek wears. So add that to my reasons of why I want him to continue to win, and I think he'll be in the top 15 here soon. Hey, if you like this video about my top 5 unranked fighters in the 155 division, and you enjoy UFC related content, be sure to check out these other 2 videos and subscribe for future videos just like this.